Hi, I'm Annie Lesser. I am here at the Bourbon Orleans Hotel for the Overlook Film Festival in New Orleans with my show Infinitely Dinner Society. Midnight snacks, banana Fosters. Bananas Foster. Oh, words. This is my second time at the Overlook Film Festival. I was at the festival last year doing an adaptation of Apartment 8 called The Chalet, because it was originally going to be in a chalet, and then it was moved to hotel room, so it just is called The Chalet because of that. And I really enjoyed being kind of in this secluded, snowy lodge, the Timberline Lodge, which was up in the mountains of Oregon, and where they shot the exteriors for The Shining. It had this kind of very like mystical feeling because we were in Portland and we looked up the weather and for the area, and it was like just supposed to rain, and then all of a sudden once we get to that point in the mountain, it is just dousing us with snow. And then coming here to New Orleans, which is like heat, humidity, totally different vibes, and also, you know, trying to take something and make it feel intimate in this really crowded, tourist heavy city that's in the midst of Fleet Week is a little bit crazy because my show's outdoors versus being like a tiny show in a room in a lodge versus, you know, having something where you're on the street. So it's a definitely very different feels and very different things to navigate from last year to this year. When Landon and Michael first started talking to me about doing a show, an Infinitely Dinner Society show for the Overlook Film Festival, there was the kind of introduction in, we're gonna do it in New Orleans this year. We love the vibe of Infinitely Dinner Society and how you meet on a random street corner and there are masks involved and chefs, and that it kind of feels very Eyes Wide Shutty, but you know, it's not really creepy or horror related or, you know, New Orleans related. How can we make this like something that's special for the festival? So they're like, can you like think of something that maybe is a little bit of a creepy math concept and a little bit of a New Orleans food and come up with something for the festival. So I basically was like going down New Orleans foods. I'm like, what is the most dangerous food? I'm like, bananas Foster lights on fire. So we got New Orleans, Old New Orleans Rum, I think it's called. The New Orleans Rum Company to donate the rum, and I came up with a thing about the cosmic horror of the multiverse. The thing is that Infinitely Dinner Society in and of itself is supposed to be detached somewhat from emotion and be focused on intellectualizing things. Like, I want it to be a deconstruction versus, you know, my site-specific work or some of my other work tend to be focused on emotion, and Infinitely Dinner Society is supposed to be as like far from that as possible, but so deconstructing something that makes you scared without actually trying to make people scared, because I don't want Infinitely Dinner Society stuff to like, that I'm not trying to make you feel anything with it. It's supposed to be all about like what you take away from it. It's supposed to be that type of thing, which is, you know, it's an experiment like everything I do. So it was interesting for me to like try and focus on this idea that does, like, I think is really scary, this idea that if the multiverse is real, which is science is seeming to lean a little bit towards that sometimes, if the multiverse is real, that means that in a majority of reality, our physics isn't real and everything you know isn't real and it doesn't work. And so that is a very scary concept, I think. And so deconstructing that I kind of went from the idea of the fact that we had Bananas Foster and fire, and so I kind of came up with the idea, and also like wanting to have something light on fire, but us not being able to have like a catering table like brought with us on the street. Like logistically, I came up with the idea of having a frozen Banana Foster that gets lit on fire, and doing it that way, it's interesting because you get like the cold versus the hot and kind of that duality within physics, but you also get something that's logistically easier than having a catering table and like lighting stuff on fire, which was what I originally was trying to figure out a way to do. Immersive theater is just, I think, really, you know, a lot of people try and say how it's like its own thing, but I really just see it as an extension of regular theater. Like regular theater is a live experience and you're doing something that isn't really going to be repeated, but it's done on a larger scale, and it's scaled in a way where it's meant to just be done for as many audience members as possible, whereas immersive theater is about doing something that's like a one-time experience, but it's being scaled down to create a more personalized and experience. And even when it's a show that you know, maybe has less interaction, it tends to be focused on what sensorially will make it feel more intimate and personalized to you. It's all theater is about like creating an arc for an audience member. And I know that I had mentioned that Infinitely Dinner Society is not about creating that emotional sensation, but it is about letting the audience member find their own one. And I feel like most theater, you know, is all about what you bring to it as an audience member. That being said, like with my more emotional stuff, I am focused on creating an emotional arc, and I have an exact emotional arc in mind I want you as an audience member to feel. And I feel like regular theater too kind of has that dual approach where like some are just about telling a story in a way that they're like, this person is sad, we want you to have catharsis by relating to their sadness and going through that. Or there's more artistic things like Waiting for Godot, that's more like about, this is an intellectualized, you know, deconstruction of death and waiting for death, and you have these different types of theater. So immersive theater can do both of those things, but it does it on a more intimate level in the hopes that you hold that and bring that with you for a longer period of time. But I think that there will always be different types of theater and different types of things people try to change about theater to make it more relevant to what the artist wants the audience to feel, and whether or not that's making it immersive or adding new tech elements like having the actors leave and a video camera follow them and showing it on the screen. There's going to be, as long as there are creative people, there are going to be creative new ways of doing things differently, and immersive theater is just one of those things. So I think that is I feel like I went off on a tangent, but I think that I feel like that kind of fits with that. So I, Annie Lesser, am the creator of Infinitely Dinner Society, obviously, and also of the ABC Project, which is a series of site-specific theater pieces where I find a venue that starts with each letter of the alphabet and I write a show for that venue. What a lot of people don't seem to realize is, you know, I write for the venue, so I don't have like preconceived notions of what I want the story to be until I have the venue booked. Like sometimes I'll have like, oh, this would be a cool show to do in this type of venue, and if that type of venue presents itself to me, I'll get to do that, but I'm not trying to force a story from a different venue into a new venue. So a lot of people obviously want me to know exactly when and how the next ABC project show is going to happen, but because I'm having issues pinning down a venue for F, that's the only reason that it hasn't happened. My goal was to do F, G, H, and hopefully I by the end of the year, but with the issues pinning down a venue for F, we'll see if that actually happens. Maybe we'll be seeping into 2019. Who knows? We'll see what happens. I also am working on this show called Death and Coffee, which is an autobiographical piece. It's really nerve-wracking because I will be the primary performer. I usually, my shows will have sometimes myself as a secondary performer, so I can be an onstage stage manager to make sure everything runs smoothly, and if something dangerous or not plot forwarding, I guess, for the show happens, I can put everything back on the rails for safety and story's sake. But I am not really view myself as a performer, but it's a show where I'm playing myself, so it's gonna be very vulnerable and putting myself out there, and you know, so I have that coming up, and I'm also just trying to start to collaborate more with outside companies and sources and try and do some new things with other creators, which is hopefully gonna be cool and fun and interesting. And I obviously will be bringing Bananas Foster to Los Angeles, which will be great. And more Infinitely Dinner Society things coming soon, hopefully. We're trying to get grants to finally build the set where the actual dinners are gonna happen. But it's just like the cost of building that set keeps turning out to be more and more than originally was thought. So although it was supposed to be built in spring of 2017, it looks like it's not going to be built until, you know, summer or fall of 2019. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, so that's what's going on the horizon, and I'm just constantly working. I just don't like to stop.